Greetings, everyone. Happy, almost Halloween. Happy October. I'm delighted that we have such a fun event today. And I'm Deborah Prinzing and happy to be here as the Slow Flowers founder and creative director. And we have such a great session today with two of our members who are going to share their talents and ideas and inspiration. First off, I just want to introduce and mention that the Slow Flowers team is here. Our operations manager and event manager, Karen Thornton, who is behind the scenes. You'll somehow see my photo on her name, but just know that that's Karen, and you can direct message her with any questions. Nisha Blancas, our social media manager. Hi, Nisha. Can you just tell everyone what you're going to wear for Halloween? Can you tell us what you're going to wear for Halloween? Because you're a Halloween girl.
I can't. It's a big secret. This weekend, I was Tweedledee and Tweedledum with my mom for my cat's birthday. So
Nisha has quite a following on TikTok for how to dress with your mom for your adult child and mom for Halloween. So maybe you should put that TikTok link in the chat, Nisha, so people can watch it.
Maybe.
All right. Thank you so much for being here and for doing such great social media this week. And Tonally Gruder, our wonderful membership manager. Hi, Tonally.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to see everyone here today. And this is like one of my favorite flowers to talk about.
Yeah. You grow marigolds, don't you?
So much. Yes.
Okay.
So I can't wait for this.
Okay. You're going to manage all the questions then. So if anyone has questions for our speakers, Tonally will be pulling those up from the chat and interspersing our presentations from Eileen and Caitlin. So thanks, Tonally. What are you going to wear for Halloween? Do you know?
Yeah, we're doing a Godzilla theme this year. So I'm going to be Mothra. I'll be a giant moth monster.
Okay. All right. Good. I don't have anything to say, but I am wearing my only orange dress. Okay. In honor of our two guests today. So we're brainstorming about what to do for the meetup. And I always love the intersection of flower farming and floral design and when that comes together, because the majority of our members are farmer florists who have a design forward approach to flower farming or a farming forward approach to floral design. You can look at it both ways. And so we were brainstorming, and we, of course, thought of pumpkins and thought of Eileen immediately, Eileen Tongson of FarmGal Flowers in Orlando, who has had a lot of her succulent projects go viral. I worry about mentioning the succulent Christmas tree because we're not going to do that in December, but the succulent pumpkins are so popular and so beautiful. So Eileen is going to share a little bit about a design, some ideas. She has a handout. But first we're going to talk about marigolds. And I agree with you, Tonally. My marigolds are like having such a comeback. And I'm delighted to introduce Caitlin Mathis of the Marigold Gardens. Hi, Caitlin.
Hello.
Thank you so much for saying yes when we asked you to come tell us about your favorite flower.
Oh my gosh, it's so easy. Let's just talk about marigolds.
So where are you? I can't remember. You're in New England, but I can't remember what state you're in.
I'm in New York. Actually, I'm in the Finger Lakes.
Okay. Wow. And you call your farm the Marigold Gardens because you sometimes have a little migration from one plot to the next.
Yeah, I'm still renting here. And so sometimes, we need to put a few seeds somewhere else. And I anticipate that there'll be some changes. So it will stay the Marigold Gardens.
Okay, good. That's great. Well, Karen just put up your Instagram account. So so yeah, we've got a good crowd in the waiting room now. So folks, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll figure out, Tonally and I'll figure out when to pop in and ask those of Caitlin while she's demonstrating. And we do have a giveaway. We just decided before we started that we're going to ask Caitlin to curate her favorite collection of marigold seeds from Johnny's Seeds, and one person will receive those. So we're excited about that. And if you have, it looks like everybody has identified themselves on their participant bio, Nisha, but do you want to say anything about that? It looks like if people haven't correctly identified themselves, they may not get listed and, added to the drawing. So that's the only suggestion. But
right. Yeah. If you can just please identify yourself in the participant list by changing by adding your business name to your name, or you can even write your business name or Instagram handle within the chat box.
Great. That sounds great. Okay. Well, Caitlin and I don't know. I think we just became friends because you joined Slow Flowers and I started stalking you. And last year, for the 2023 Slow Flowers Floral Insights and Industry Forecast, one of our insights was the amazing power of edible flowers. And you had some really fun images that you shared and talked about the flavor profile of marigolds and how chefs come to you for advice. And so we were excited to feature that. So now let's talk about what you do with marigolds as literally your only crop, right?
Right. I mean, it's nice having a niche, I'll say, because you get to stretch it as far as it can go. And the marigold just happens to be super versatile, and you can eat it and you can dye with it, and all the varieties. I think my niche within the niche is that I grow so many varieties.
Yeah. Well, let me let you go on screen. I'll go off and we'll just turn this over to you for the next part of the morning.
Okay. So maybe I'll start. I did bring this giant list of over 60 marigold varieties that I've grown over the last 4 years.
And we'll share that. We will share that in the chat. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. But at first I thought I would just start with a quick Marigold crown. Should anyone need a costume this holiday season. So to make a quick crown with the marigolds, I'm starting with like a pretty, I have no idea what the gauge is on this, but a pretty strong piece of wire. And I had pre-made an audacious version of this for autumnal queen crowns. And one of the things that I wanted to show is a couple different kinds of threading techniques that I use. I pretty much, most of my garlands are threaded with a large needle and just cotton thread because I like imagining that they can just be composted.
That's great.
And they do pretty well just on the cotton thread. Sometimes I double it up if it's going to be really heavy. The big orange Aztec blooms, those can get really heavy. So you can either go stem to bloom, or for this autumn crown, I'm going to do kind of through the side. And I'll probably do sets of 2. And then just push that down. And then you can fold leaves up and kind of sandwich them in between. This looks really good on a dog too, I'll say.
I love it.
But if we want to talk, Deborah, do you want to ask me about some varieties?
Yes. Well, first of all, I did try making a marigold garland last week, inspired by you. I used a long needle like that, and I used bullion wire because that's what I had. And it was kind of brass colored, so I figured it would sort of disappear. But I found that I wasn't sure when to harvest the flower and whether it was, because some of them shattered. So I was wondering what your approach is to preparing the heads.
So I tend to, I really like the bonanza varieties because it's very clear the inner parts are kind of feathery looking. So it's really clear when you can pick it. Mm-hmm. But when it's this time of season, so I still have fresh marigolds this year. It's the first time it's been so late to have fresh marigolds.
Oh, nice.
But I do my plants are tired and glicky.
Glicky.
So
What does glicky mean?
glicky is like, let's see if I have.
Other people
Big
probably
glit-
know what that means. Flower farmers probably know what that means.
Yeah, it's like just when it looks kind of exhausted.
Okay.
Um,
Not as
so
crisp and plump as at the earlier part of the season.
right. So later in the season, I tend to pick early before they have a chance to get glicky.
Got it. Got it.
But they dry, or they just like don't stay plump as long the earlier you pick them.
So yeah, why don't you tell us what varieties you are threading on that wire too?
Sure. So right now I have red cherry is really still going strong. That is kind of shrub sized, or like hip sized.
Wow.
So the stem, it is a French marigold, but the stem is decent. And that is currently looking kind of like this.
Oh, pretty.
But it has a fair amount of variety to it. It can be blotchy or like yellow and red. The safari and bolero types do that too. When you see that was one of my goals this year, is I wanted to grow a lot of kind of mutant, blotchy, irregular marigolds. So those are what that variety is. This year I grew my first triploid, which was it was red zenith, and it glows. It's a burpee seed. It is awesome, and it turns orange or goldish orange later in the season. But those are great.
And these are all on the PDF handout that Caitlin's prepared. Karen just put the drive link in the chat, so everybody needs to grab that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sure. This is sorry, my camera's not too exciting.
It's good.
But this is like a late season. It's interesting, the marigolds, the later the season goes. So a lot of people are talking about strawberry blonde, which is kind of a pink marigold, very special.
Yeah.
And I really like fireball. Also, I feel like the two of those together. So this is fireball late season. Turns into a burgundy, and pretty much strawberry blonde does that too. But that's really nice. I feel like it's a very vampire thing later in October to have these.
Get your goth vibe going on, right?
Yeah, you need some goth marigolds as well.
So the thing is, they all go together, right? So if whatever you grow, you can design them all onto a strand, right?
Yep. And that's also, it's a fun flex for an artistic eye to have so many varieties, to see how the colors play off of each other. This year, I really liked Bonanza Bee and Bonanza Flame, which is kind of, one is red and yellow striped and one is orange and red striped. And that looked so good.
Wow, that's so great.
Like,
why don't you hold that up so we can see how far you've gotten.
So
how
and
fun.
then you would just continue on, right? We can just kind of call it here, but like we just continue on and have a little
fascinator.
Yeah, have a little fascinator. The style of going through the ends and kind of zigzagging does make the garland last longer fresh. Like, it looks nicer fresh, and it's my preference when it's dry. It looks
so you're talking about, you're not doing end to end, you're alternating is what you're saying,
right? I'm doing, I'm kind of laying over.
Oh,
but you had asked about splitting, and there is a technique with larger blooms, if those are split, you can just rip it and then thread it so that I don't know, I should probably learn what this bulbous area
Yeah.
on the marigold is called, but you
The
thread up,
base.
you can thread up through that and then smoosh the top down, and you will lose a little bit of petals, but that's a way to kind of hold it in place.
That's cool. So all the garlands that you have behind you, these are things that are they dried? Have you made them previously in the season?
Yeah, I have actually, I wanted to show, like, this is the bigger, the bigger Aztec blooms, the Taget erecta. And this is something that I made last weekend.
Wow.
And it's still, so those stay robust a week, 2 weeks. Like, it takes a while for them to dry. I would say the French garlands they'll look like this for 3 or 4 days, and then they'll start to dry.
But they seem to hold their color okay. They don't get too dark, right?
Right. Actually, these when they are deep red, they do dry really, really burgundy. They dry true to color. In fact, the ones that I have behind me, except for this one fresh one, these are from 3 years ago.
Wow.
So
Wow.
they do stay colorful, and
Yeah, I mean, all the more
yeah.
reason to put them on cotton thread, because when they finally get too dusty and you're just sick of them, you can just compost them, right?
Or toss them. Like, a lot of people will buy it, enjoy it, and then put it in a dye pot.
Oh, let's talk about that. This is what you recommend to your customers or florists?
This is just people who are getting into botanical dyeing. Marigold is also called false saffron because it will dye things yellow, or depending on how much iron's in your water, it might be greeny yellow. Also beautiful.
Yeah.
Still beautiful. So yeah, if you have a garland hanging out for a long time, I've had like a friend of mine who I have passed things on that were pretty old. She's used them to dye, and the pigment is I guess maybe tannins. I don't really know, but the pigment still comes.
Wow, that's amazing. So what is your main marketplace? Is it selling to the consumer, or I know you sell to chefs, and it sounds like maybe fiber artists?
Yeah, so that's like the trifecta. Mostly I'm down at the farmer's market selling garlands, or there could be like a few weddings that want garlands, private orders. And then there's chefs, or a really, really good friend of mine is a flavor wizard. And so I usually pass a lot of stuff to her. And then the botanical dyers.
That's amazing. And you are able to have marigolds from like how early in the season to obviously right now?
Yeah, they start. I hope for blooms by the middle of June.
That's amazing. So you're getting several months of crops then.
Yeah, I mean, especially up here, like, you never know when the frost is going to come. So I think August and September seem to be really like when things just are an avalanche of blooms. It would be nice to be able to I've been thinking a lot about how can I extend the season and do that.
I think it's great. It's so inspiring just to even hear about the 3 channels. I would love to. There's one question that is coming up. I'm going to jump in and toss this to you from Misty Vanderweel, who's in outside of Anchorage, Alaska. What is your bug pressure, if any, on your marigolds?
So if it's a dry season, one thing is my garden is really wet. So I deal a lot with like alternaria, and it's always running running my life.
I don't know
When
what
it's
that
a
is.
good,
Is
when
that
it's
an,
a nice rainy season and like we have plenty of rain, that still things are too wet.
okay.
But last year was a drought and I had TPB bug so bad. All the foliage looked gorgeous and all the blooms were totally emptied.
Hmm.
And
It's
I
so funny
just,
because people talk about growing marigolds as like a
I know.
a way to detract pests from your vegetables or something like that. So
Right. They're like, oh yeah, it repulses all kinds of
yeah,
critters.
yeah.
And like it's kind of a myth, I think. This year I had actual critter pressure very bad, like groundhogs and rabbits.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was a super sluggy season also.
Hmm. So do you
Um,
just have to do a lot of hand management?
yeah. I
Wow.
actually I replanted almost half of what I had originally planted.
Wow.
I was in July and feeling
Bummer.
really stressed and like how many nets can I buy? And we even bought this like kind of snake oil vole repellent sonic stick. It didn't work, but it was like whatever we could
You're
do.
so desperate, you'll try anything.
I know.
How much time do you need for the slides? Like 5 minutes?
Oh, not I was just going to kind of show and yeah, 5 minutes
Okay.
sounds good. Yeah.
Well, we have a few questions. Why don't we do those and then we'll jump over to the slides.
Sure.
Tonley, do you want to jump in with the questions?
Yes, we do have some questions here. Let me turn on my video. Hi. Yeah, so we have Christy wanted to know how far in advance can you make the garlands before you sell them? And are there specific tricks that you use for storing them, keeping them dry? Do you keep them out of sunlight? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so when I make fresh, I can using the Sue McCleary hydration chamber technique, I can keep them in the fridge for like a week or two or more, maybe 3 weeks, as long as
Wow.
I'm like burping and like moving the garlands around a little bit so that they don't get glicky
Uh-huh.
in there. When I dry them, they're really it's really just hanging them as they are. I tend to hang them bloom up. Here's like, so I tend to hang it kind of like this
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to this.
Yeah.
But really that's about the extent of my attention to them when they dry.
That's great. Sarah Joe from Everbloom in Texas, I just as a comment, but I think it's a good one. She said, in Texas, we have lots of Hindu folks who use marigolds for Diwali and Mexican folks who use them for Dia de los Muertos. Both holidays are in November. Are you able to take advantage of that market? Obviously in Texas, Sarah Joe probably can, right?
Yeah, I mean, also my birthday is October 28th, and I always want marigolds for my birthday. So I think I have used in years past, I've like stockpiled things in the fridge to try to continue them later into the season. I feel like that I have quite a lot of people that buy the dried ones
Mm-hmm.
in that
For that
case.
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, listen, before we show the slides, can you show off your cool outfit?
Oh, sure. So every year I make a coverall to celebrate the season. So this year it starts as a white all cotton coverall, and this year I cut the sleeves and the pant and the legs off, and I dyed it orange. And then these are this variety is called Harlequin or Jester.
It's
So I
great.
made a little stamp. Whoop, for warigolds, more warigolds. Oh, and the back
And your
has
back.
the back the back has a moon
That you hand painted.
that I painted, and it glows in the dark. And then it has a groundhog because it was just
Too cute.
merciless this year. Yeah, so that's gonna help me remember what the 23 was.
So is this like your billboard? You wear this to the farmers markets? So people,
yeah.
they see you from way down the aisle.
Yeah. So now I have 4 of them, and it's amazing how a coverall will fill your closet.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, there's one more question from Joan Thorndike. She says, I was hoping Miss Marigold would show off her merchandise. I have something she made. So, Joan, what are you talking about? Can you take yourself off of mute and share?
Also, can I say that Joan is the reason she wrote an article 4 years ago about needing people to grow marigolds on the East Coast. And
that's why you're doing
it. I'm so proud of you and so grateful. Well, shortly after we met over that article, Caitlin sent me this.
Oh, another one of her prints.
Yeah, so that's a screen print.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
a dish towel.
But those are big fat marigolds on it. I love that.
It's so beautiful. I just want to say it's exquisite.
Oh my goodness. Caitlin, are you still selling these?
I have the screen. It just doesn't matter. Maybe in the winter.
And she told me she said, I'm sending you this, but I'm going to make myself a dress. And I wanted to know about your dress. Did you make it?
The dress is for like when I have, very formal marigold events.
Oh, that's great. Well,
anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Joan, for sharing that. I will say that before we started the meetup, Nisha and I were working on Caitlin to do a marigold garment for American Flowers Week. It's probably too late this season, but we'll get you on board next year. It would be
a dried garland outfit would be.
Yeah. Then you could work on it in your sweet time.
It would be definitely lighter.
Well, listen, why don't you share a few slides and then we'll turn our attention to the other orange botanical pumpkins.
Okay, let's share the screen. Can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was just going to include some marigold drooly images and then I can talk about them as they go by. So these are the large Aztec Taget erecta garlands that last weeks fresh and then look dynamite dry. Here's some animation. Woo! Here are a couple pictures of things that are dried. Everything's dried in these photos, and that's some beautiful botanical silk that I traded for from Little Bear. And the yellow is marigold dyed.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's wonderful.
And yeah, I think the special qualities of them when they're dried is the variety of like how you're threading it and the color.
Oh, they look like jewelry. They're amazing.
They do. They're jewelry. So I do put them on my Christmas tree. This is outside, and then I made I just really love that blue retro bathroom thing. So I made a tub full of marigolds blowing out the thing. And then I've sold a couple just red garlands for Valentine's Day.
Ooh, with dried.
Yeah, dried. Which is sweet. And there's just a bunch of pictures of the various garlands and varieties. Here's the top of a halter top I made.
Oh my gosh, fun.
And that top, there's like a chrysanthemum kind of style of marigold. So that's the Mission Yellow one, but also spinning wheels, or like sometimes it's called Simba.
And that's the one around your neck.
That is the one right here. I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, and then the strawberry blonde is the pink you see popping in here.
Very fun.
Yeah. This front and center here is of my favorite variety, or at least maybe a super special variety called Pesce's Gold, which is furry, spiky. And I looked for about 3 years to find this seed.
At the top center one.
Yeah, the top center.
Okay.
Right here.
Yeah, beautiful. It's got so much fringe.
And here's some dried, dried wreaths that you can make. I really like, just because the marigolds can last and last out of water, and these garlands, I like making simple green bouquets and then throwing the garland on top of it.
That's great.
Here's a bunch of varieties.
And while we have you here, just Sarah Jo asked if you could just name one, or like your top 1 or 2 recommendations for marigolds that dry well.
Marigolds that dry well.
And then we're going to have to wrap up so we can move to pumpkins.
Okay. Bonanza Bee, I think, is this stripy this stripy red thing. That's a really consistent one.
That's beautiful.
The orange, yellow is tough to dry.
Okay.
I often find I'm dissatisfied with them. I do want to say, I think the best white variety of marigold out there is Snowball. It's a burpee seed, and I think that they're playing with white. I know a lot of people are growing white swan, and I think they're playing with that and trying to get that to become less glicky. But this is Snowball down here.
Okay.
It's a shorter marigold.
But if you're just threading it, it doesn't matter how long the stem is, right?
Exactly. They all pop off. And then more garlands.
Oh my gosh. Love it.
And this is also Snowball, whipped cream and cherry hat. We haven't talked about confetti, but Marigold makes such great confetti. And yeah, so then this is some of my rose and my antiquated thing.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much, Caitlin. This has been so much fun. I know that we probably have a few more questions, but people can reach out to you on your Instagram account. And
I want nothing else but to talk about marigolds.
Love it. Well, hang around because we might have a little time at the end for a few more questions. And I'm thrilled now to welcome Eileen Tongson from FarmGal Flowers. And Eileen is a longtime Slow Flowers member, and we featured her in Where We Bloom, the book, and she's been on the podcast. So glad that you couldn't share your pumpkin knowledge. You like, it's all pumpkin season for you right now. So why don't I come off the screen and highlight you and let you walk us through some of your special designs these are mainly for your workshops, right?
Right.
Good.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. This is like our 10th year of doing succulent pumpkins. And I didn't go into this, with the intention of becoming the succulent pumpkin queen of Orlando, but here we are. And it has really been a lot of fun. I actually just taught another workshop last night at JoJo's Shake Bar. And that was really a lot of fun. So I'm going to do a quick demo and then going to show you some pictures, give you some other ideas. And then I think Deborah might have some questions from you all and whatever questions she has.
I also want to say that Eileen is a finalist for the Best of Winter Park Best Florist, and Winter Park is the community that she's in. So anyone can vote, and today's the last day. So I'm going to put the voting link in the chat, and we all should just vote for her and say, because she's the best florist we know in Winter Park, and and you've won in the past, haven't you?
I have. I'm trying to keep the streak going.
Okay,
so
good.
Thank you. Thank you very
much.
Thank you very much for that.
All
I
right.
really appreciate it. Yes, and today is the last day to vote. So, sorry, back to the pumpkins. So this, like I was saying earlier, this is a very popular workshop. I believe we will have my tip sheet in the chat. And there you will find all the items necessary to create this project. We use all locally grown succulents. We have several succulent nurseries here in Central Florida that I partner with, and I know I'm very lucky to be able to just go over to the nursery and pick up the succulents and bring them to my workshops. I had a workshop yesterday. I picked these up on Wednesday. So these are all locally grown. Now, the first step in creating your succulent pumpkin is to take some spray adhesive and just spray it right on top, very quick. Add some forest moss on top, and my students like to call this the pumpkin's toupee.
Love it.
And you know, it doesn't, you don't want the layer to be too thick. It doesn't matter if it's uneven or there's some wild pieces hanging out. I actually like the wild pieces going everywhere. But you can always, this is a very forgiving project. You can add more moss, add more succulents, take away moss, take away succulents. I've had students create one and then decide they didn't like it and start all over again. So there is no pressure with this project. And I think that's one of the reasons that makes it so fun for a workshop. So, and then I had a very short stem on this pumpkin. Sometimes the stem is longer, like this one, and it is up to you whether or not you want to cut it off or leave it. I think it makes a fun design element. However, if you cut this off and there is a hole in the stem, make sure to plug that hole up with some of your glue and some moss, because you don't want any water to get into that hole. If it does, this will cause your pumpkin to deteriorate a lot faster. Okay, so one of the items I'd like to point out is we use cold glue for this project. I've always used cold glue. It does not kill the succulents. That is one of the top questions that I get regarding this project. I like to start with the taller succulents in the middle, like this one, and we just cut them out. I take off any dead leaves, try not to bring too much dirt into the pumpkin. And this is a taller one, as I mentioned earlier. I like to start with those in the middle. Now, I know it's hard for a lot of people. It was hard for me in the beginning to cut the succulents out of the pots. I assure you, we are not killing the succulents. The glue does, as I said earlier, the glue does not kill them. I applied, you don't need a lot of the cold glue. I applied a little bit. If you have not worked with cold glue before, make sure you don't give it is very liquidy. Do not give it a huge squeeze or it will all come out. So use a light touch with the cold glue. Your first succulent it may fall over a little bit like this one is. Don't worry about that, because as you continue to add to your succulent pumpkin, they will hold each other up. Mm. So there we go. So I would continue to add some of the taller succulents, like this is a very beautiful one. And then just continue to work my way out. And we're going to do a little presto changeo here.
I love that you're using the cake platter. What a wonderful way to display it instead of a lazy Susan.
Yes,
elevating it.
Yes. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, more about that later. So this one, I've already added many succulents in the center, and then from here, the key to this is you don't want any empty spaces. You want to make sure this looks nice and full of succulents. If you don't, your eye will immediately go to those empty spaces, especially when you photograph this. So I'll often take these smaller succulents and add them in to the empty spaces. So for instance, right here, I'd add one there. By the way, if the succulent doesn't fit, it is you can pluck off some leaves and then make it fit into your design.
Great.
And then I would just continue to fill in all of the empty spaces.
Are you trying to cover the moss, or you allow some moss to show through, right?
I usually allow some to show through, but that is entirely up to the student, whether or not they want to cover up the moss. The moss is there. It does have a purpose because these succulents will root into the forest moss. I tell my students they need to water this once a week. You don't overhead water your succulents, because if water gets stuck in these little rosettes, they will cause the succulent to rot and break down. So what I recommend is taking the nozzle of a spray bottle and just spraying the moss in between the succulents. I always have a nurse in one of my classes. One student who was a nurse, she suggested using a syringe. That works too if you have one.
So great.
You know, if you can use any spray bottle, but if you know, here's your reason to buy one of those fancy ones. If or, you know, one day I'm going to get to this and I'm actually going to sell these with my workshops.
Right.
You know, this is, you know, if you ever need an excuse to buy one of these fancy looking ones. Now, this project is these are very long lasting. You know, you can use this on your Thanksgiving table. I have students who say that these have lasted them through the spring, like truly have lasted that long. Of course, at our house, you know, after Thanksgiving, we're rolling into Christmas, even into other holiday decor. But what I'd like to say is that, you know, you can do these in any size. We've done large ones. This is a smaller one. You can do mini pumpkins, the mini succulent pumpkins, and gourds. I have some gourds up here. These look great as place settings. If you're ever doing a fall tablescape, these look amazing and they create a lot of chatter. You can also, before I forget, if you have straw flower, you can add, you know, straw flower to your designs, and it adds a little bit of another pop of color. So this project, we can start with the pumpkins. In November, you can move into cornucopias, succulent cornucopias, use the gourds. And then, as Deborah kind of hinted to earlier, in December, we move into succulent Christmas trees, which is probably the culmination of all of our succulent workshops. Let's see, did I cover everything? As I mentioned earlier, we are not killing these succulents. After I teach my students how to create the succulent pumpkins, I teach them how to care for the succulents afterwards. Everything from how to pot them, water them, fertilize them. And I'm going to move this for a minute, and then I hope you can see one of my planters back here. And these are all succulents that were left over from, you know, previous succulent workshops. Sometimes students don't want to repot their succulents and they leave them on my front porch. And so I repot them. They're so easy to repot. So as you can see, this one is one of my favorites. It's very beautiful. This is a couple of years old. So we do not, we try to repot the succulents, and I teach them, you know, how to do that. And I think that's part of the appeal of this workshop, is that it's something that lives on and on and on. It's not just over, you know, after the season.
I have a few questions. Can I share them?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, one is, are your pumpkins grown locally? Like, are there vegetable farms that you get them from, or where do you source your pumpkins? So
this season, I sourced them from a local produce wholesaler.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these varieties don't grow here in Central Florida, but I try to get them from other farmers in the South.
Got it. Yeah. And then how about the moss? Is that a Florida harvested product, or what do you know about that?
No,
I'm curious about that.
Yeah, it's forest moss, and quite honestly, I get it from our our local floral wholesaler. There are other types of moss out there, reindeer moss, Spanish moss. Yes, we have lots of Spanish moss here, but I do not recommend going out and grabbing it from your oak trees and putting it on here because they're known to have lots of little critters in them. So the best moss to use for this project that the succulents will root into is forest moss. What I do encourage my students to do is when they take this off of their succulent pumpkin and move it into a pot, that they bring the moss with them, and it kind of serves as a mulch, in the pot.
It's compostable, right?
Around the succulents. So we continue to use it,
Oh, that's so cool.
Into it when we get to that point. Yeah.
And what about your workshops? Can you talk a little bit about what are you charging? And, do you do private classes, or I know like the one you did just at JoJo's Shake Shack sounds like really fun. Was there milkshakes involved?
Yes, they're known for these giant wild milkshakes. Like literally there's like on one shake, there's a piece of pumpkin pie and a cookie and marshmallows. You can check it. I think I did a reel from a workshop there a couple of weeks ago, so you can check it out there. It's a little bit hard to answer that question because it just kind of all depends. So I do my own workshops, and sometimes I partner like with JoJo's approached me to work with them for the month of October, teaching at their restaurant. And the students, in addition to, the succulent pumpkin workshop, it included their meal, which included the shakes. So that was that was a little bit different. I do private workshops. For instance, someone had a Halloween birthday and wanted to do this with 8 to 10 of her friends. And we did a private workshop actually at her home. So the pricing kind of depends also on, sometimes students like to bring their own pumpkin. JoJo's wanted to provide the pumpkins last night. So it kind of varies. Yeah. I would say on average, without the pumpkin, I charge $75 and up per student. Mm-hmm. And I think for a medium-sized pumpkin. Again, you can go up and down if you want to do a quick project, with these smaller gourds and pumpkins. Of course, that's going to be less expensive.
I think your point, though, about the takeaway value where the consumer is getting an experience socially and, learning something, but the message is that they can take these succulents and replant them.
Right.
It sort of feels like value.
Right. I also, in addition to that, I like to make, and I think this is part of the reason why this is very successful, is I like to make sure the student feels like that they've accomplished something beautiful. And, like even the person who feels like they're the least crafty, like has said to me, I did it, So I do a demo like I just did now, but then I go around and help all the students individually for the latter part of the class. And I think they like that attention, and I give them tips, one-on-one too. So I think that's part of why it's very successwe
I love it. Well, do you want to show your slides that you brought?
Yes.
Okay, maybe Karen can pop those up. And as we alluded to, and it's in the chat, Eileen put kind of a project sheet together, a PDF that you can grab, and it's decorative. It's something you could print out and share with your students, I guess. But it has all of her materials. So this is one of your big pumpkin classes.
Yes, I just wanted to show you. These are some of the larger ones. And then, so this will have anywhere from 30 to 40 succulents on it. So obviously the price, goes up accordingly. People like to come, we don't have much of a fall here in Orlando, but people like to come in their fall outfits or their pumpkin spice t-shirts, things like that. So it's a festive event too. You can move to the next slide. This is one of my favorite pictures. I love these heirloom pumpkins because they last forever. They just last for a really long time. So that one just happens to be one of my favorite pictures of all the workshops I've taught through the years.
Your color sensibility of how you're putting all these succulents together, it makes it feel, it's not just green.
Right, right. And then this is another favorite photo of mine because I just wanted to point out, this is the succulent pumpkin pose that my my students hold their pumpkin like that, and we'll take a photo, and it just always comes out great when they hold it like that.
That's so funny. Instead of teaching the bride how to hold the bouquet, you're teaching the pumpkin designers.
Yes, I know it's funny, but it's just so true. They just look great in that pose. Here, I just wanted to point out, at some of my workshops, I like to set up a little photo station, and it's very simple. Like usually there's already a table there at the venue. I will cover it with a fall themed tablecloth. Sometimes it's not even a tablecloth. That is a napkin. And then these look great on cake stands. And then sometimes, the students will take pictures of their succulent pumpkins at this little photo station. And then of course, I'll ask them to tag us if they can. And, these people go crazy over these on social media. So it's just a tip of mine. If you can set up a photo station, it's a great way to market your class.
I love it.
Yeah. Next slide. Again, here's the photo station. Like I said, it's just very simple. Table with a napkin and a cake a cake stand, and then often people come to this with their friends, or I had mothers and sons come together. I had a husband and wife come together last night, and they like to have their photos taken with their finished product, of course. If I can, I'll team up with a local photographer, do some kind of barter, or if it's a new photographer, they might be looking for some content, and they'll come and take photos, of the pumpkins and their students. And that's been a neat partnership that I've done many times with this workshop. I think there might be one more slide. Okay, this was a group that came together. Often people, like I said, people come in groups to this, so they sell out quickly because they'll sign up like 6-8 people at a time. But every time I post this picture, people just sign up because it's fun to see like a group together and have they had fun and seeing what they accomplished. So I think that might be the last slide.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh. Well, so will you do pumpkin succulent workshops all the way up to Thanksgiving? I mean, this is like 6 weeks of nonstop workshops for you, right?
In the beginning I would, but I'd say the last couple of seasons, in November, I'll move into like a different project, maybe a cornucopia, or just because I've done so many, just from a personal standpoint, I've done so many, I get a little pumpkin down at that point, to be honest with you. But this is a great project because here our fall planting season starts in September. So we obviously don't have as many flowers yet in October. We have some of our over summer dahlias, maybe at that point. But this kind of helps fill in the gap a bit until our fall planted flowers really start to bloom at the end of November and December.
Yeah. I will say one thing that I've observed about you, Eileen, is that you have a real community. And so you have repeat students who, want to just know what you're teaching next. And you have to constantly feed that pipeline of an activity that people will sign up for and come with their friends. That's a big part of your business.
Yes. I mean, last night, I think half the class were repeat students. And we're not talking students who've taken this once, who've taken it multiple times. I mean, one year I asked them because I'm just, kind of curious, like obviously they know how to do the project. And they, they said they actually like to show up and everything is already there, all the items, and that they just want to come in the fall and have fun. And come out with, a fun, beautiful project. So, people, I thought, people would just come maybe, once, maybe twice, but people, it's become an annual thing for some people.
I love it.
And they expect it. You know, they're last night I was bombarded with, when is the succulent Christmas tree? So
wow, that's great.
Yeah.
We'll just watch your Instagram feed for that. And thank you so much, Eileen. That was wonderful. And thank you, Caitlin, for bringing us marigolds. I just feel like we had an orange love fest today. You both were really unique in your approach to a specific, plant. And I was going to say flower, but I know that the succulents are kind of flowers in their own right. Any final comments you guys want to make before we wrap up? Caitlin?
Absolutely. Start planting as many marigolds as you can.
I love it. I love it. How about you, Eileen?
I just like to say, if anyone has any questions, usually people have questions about specifics. I'm happy to answer them, and you can reach me on, you can send me a message through Instagram, or I'm at farmgalflowers@gmail.com, and I'm happy to help.
I love it. You guys have been so inspiring, and what a wonderful way to go into the weekend and think about some projects. Thank you all for joining us today. We had a great group, and we will have a replay video of this that we'll share next week. So don't feel like you missed anything if you didn't take all the notes. We'll also attach the handouts probably in our next newsletter so people can get that. And November 10th is our next meetup. We're going to go back to the second Friday. I will say, I hope you all noticed that we announced the Slow Flowers Summit 2024 lineup of the venue, the speakers, and the program. The dates are June 23rd through 25th, 2024 in Banff, Alberta, Canada. And so we have invited two of our speakers for that conference to kind of orient us to traveling to Canada, what to do in Banff, what we need to know, get all your questions answered. Becky Feasby and will be joining us. And also Latifa, who's the native plant expert who's going to lead a wildflower walk. And Latifa Pelletier Ahmed, she's going to talk about native plants in Canada. So it's going to be a really great session. And I hope to see you all there on November 10th. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.